In this segment, I want us to go into optimizing the parameters of the quality score themselves and whether we even know how we can do this. Guys, we will go through each parameter one by one. First, I mentioned that it's better to say. The optimization path starts from add relevance and more export CTR, which can happen quickly, and eventually we will move towards the landing page export. Guys, in the discussion of ad relevance, if you see that the ad relevance is low, you should check a few points. First, the ads themselves. Second, the integration of keywords. It is inside the pumpkin. So first, let's see what words are being written by the gentleman, what kind of feedback he's giving us, and if this feedback is low, I'll apply a filter to the entire campaign, for a moment, just to see which ones have this condition. I want to see how they are. Here, I want to apply different filters for relevance. I want to see those that are below average and average. Those that are below average and average are not in this condition here. But I want to show you this. Guys, when, for example, I'm saying assume, okay, purchase, I go into the ad group first so that you don't make a mistake. I said pair ad group. I also did this comprehensively and I will set the keyword percentage, okay. For example, assume Mr. Miyuki beads and a brand and I buy beads, check. Okay, for example, if its ad relevance is below average and average, I look to see, for example, a single bead purchase or, for instance, sequin purchase, even though it hasn't received a quality score yet, even though it has received a click. For example, assume Mr. sequin purchase. I look to see, okay, this too. Below average, guys, the first thought I have is to see among these words whose ad relevance is below average. What is the common parameter among these words whose ad relevance is below average? Then I go to the ads I have in this ad group to see what I've written in the ads and what I haven't written. Now, these two are still expanded. It's like, for example, what do they say? I look at the responsive ad and check to see the details, shows of the ad to see what things I've written, what words I've used in it, if I see that. The same parameter. Between those words that have a lower weight, I see that. For example, I don't have them clearly and specifically in my ads. What I do is, I go to the ad that is performing well, although it might take a bit longer to load due to the internet. I go to the ad that is getting good display in the same ad group. So, for example, I adjusted the bead. I add one or two of the words that have low relevance to the ad text. And I also add them to the description. For example, in the headline, I might add different types of beads like Miyuki or Japanese and so on. I add whatever I can to the ad, and then I take one or two of the ads that are getting good traffic and enhance them further. They also display in that ad group and I start editing. Okay, you might even want to change the image and there's nothing wrong with that, guys. But don't forget this point. Among the words I'm seeing that have low relevance, one of the overlapping points they have with each other is the common point regarding this word. The common point that these keywords share within that ad group. For example, this gentleman has 7, 8, or 10 of these, all managed by McCain. Well, the kid is giving me an initial hint here. What is it? It's that we should separate this and make it another group so that I can write specifically for them. It means he's telling me that he feels like he doesn't read with you and the relevance is low. Well, I feel like the relevance here is low, considering the ad group I currently have. So at this point, kids, what should spark in my mind is that if I see that common point, I should say, well, if they are a separate audience, it's as if I'm giving them a separate ad group. So I write the ad specifically for them in that new ad group. I completely cut it and go there. But if I have a scattered collection, like I have one type of bead, another type of bead, or a specific bead, and sequins, I see that I can't assign them to another ad group. I keep them in the ad group that has the most relevance to them, and then maintain it. So here, I see what I can do. I edit the ad, add one or two of these keywords to it, so that I can somewhat influence its trend. In the way I mentioned to you, for example, I do it like this. Sir, it sells, but suppose I have different brands from season 1 of the Lenovo group. Well, let's see the Y500, those who talked about color, 1000 white, 1000 Core i5, 1000, for example, black. Well, it doesn't make sense. I was going to do it here. Go and hit another number. I don't care about its landing. I brought it into my numbers. Let's see what my base is. One of my numbers that I see is doing well in traffic. Let's see what my base is. I say, sir, I edit it. Let's see what my base is. Sir, various colors of white, black, now, for example, the availability of various colors like black, white, red light, blue, whatever there is. I bring those models into the absence and find them. You guys, you need to give it time for this visual effect to change. The degree doesn't change. So you can't say, I edited it here and this change didn't happen for me. In the next video, which is actually very short, I will teach you how to take notes with the strategy you need to have in mind. Why take notes? Why? Because we need to write down these changes we are making here so that if someone else comes across this issue or if a company doesn't provide it, someone else, for example, imagine you outsourced it to an agency like our own agency or Google, for instance, and I am optimizing it. Tomorrow, for example, if another colleague wants to take over, let's say, if they don't know what I did, it becomes very difficult to be responsible. That's why I take notes in that section and how to revert to previous events. I will talk about that in the next video for you, so keep an ear out for it. We absolutely must make sure to document the changes we want to implement. We should write it down somewhere so we don't forget, and the chart should be meaningful regarding the changes we made. So now that we've made changes, let's go and check from that point onward, compare and see if we've improved. Because the volume increases, you can't easily check it and it becomes a difficult task. So for fairness, it became 1. I look at their keywords, I look at their common points. If I see they have a team and I can group them, I separate them. If I see they don't have a team, that I can directly write their numbers for all of us. If I see they don't have a team, what I do is I start with 1 or 2 words, those few words. I find their core and main elements and I see what things are happening. This is what the brands are doing. This is happening. I try to include them in 1 or 2 of the descriptions. And in one of the headlines, I somehow incorporate it and edit it to fit inside. Aiming to attract traffic is... And finally, after that, I will compare it during that time frame. This is for the discussion of fairness and insight, for the discussion of expected CTR. Guys, it's very important. It should be done well. Guys, in expected CTR. What's important is, well, first let me pause for a few seconds and I want you to think about it yourself. How do you think I can increase the expected CTR? Guys, the point is, look, with 5%. CTR, expected CTR. I have a fresh approach. The reason is not just that I should have a high CTR to have a good expected CTR, or even when I see that, sir. Here, the expected CTR is fresh. I think I had a thread of conversation that was average, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, for example, average. Look here. I have a 10% CTR, but I expect the CTR to be 5%. It says my average should be 5. The quality score must be, well, I see my expected CTR says it's average. Well, so just having a high CTR is not a reason for the expected CTR to necessarily remain average. I go to see what issue I have here. Guys, think about it for a few seconds. I'm going into the ad group. My keyword thread is average. My main thread is average. My secondary thread is average, and so on. For example, I had a few of these that were marginal. Well, these don't know the margin. The secondary thread again. So guys, what do you think I should do to improve my expected CTR? What does it mean? It means that others who were getting impressions, even in organic discussions, I can see others who were getting impressions. This keyword, when it was being searched, had a higher CTR for others. What does that mean? It means it was searched, it fired, got an impression, meaning it had a number of displays, but I didn't click. Guys, how can I fix this? Yes, if you refresh your ad relevance, it will definitely impact your CTR. What else? Please take a few seconds to think about it. One of the things that can help is if the person seeing the ad is more likely to click on it. Yes, increase the likelihood of clicking because I'm saying I'm seeing the ad and I want to increase my likelihood of clicking. Well, this is achieved by using a good call to action. So one of the things I need to talk to you about is that you must have an appropriate call to action. Meaning, if in your ad you just keep writing the best this, the best that, the best something else, it won't be effective. That's just a flyer. You need to prompt an action from your user when they are reading. What does this mean? It means the action isn't just click here. It's not just about making them click. That person will eventually click anyway. You need to anticipate the action after the click and tell them what to do. For example, if they are supposed to make a purchase, you should say what? Say, make a purchase. For instance, buy at the best price. I can say, sir, buy. You should guarantee such and such so they can purchase with peace of mind. Well, or I can say, choose freely among the various options. Make your purchase freely. For example, we have different packaging options and we say, sir, try it first. And then buy the one you want. Well, I want to tell you guys about the call to actions you can use. The important point is that we need to properly structure our ads together. Not every headline we write needs to have a call to action. That's not the case. In some ads, for example, in response, you might include a call to action in 2 or 3 of your headlines. It might even be the case that 1 or 2 of your headlines don't contain your keywords, and that's perfectly fine. You're conveying other values in your headlines, and there's no problem with that. Therefore, you should have the perspective that if you want to use a call to action, it's not just about click here. After that action, you need to follow the increase in engagement and the goal it has to ensure that the action works correctly. For us, for example, we say we are going to compare, so compare it well. So let's keep this in mind. If we want to take an action, we should definitely write it down. Guys, the next point is one of the issues that causes the advertisement of that poor person who has done the search, chosen the right keyword, and set up the ad. Not to get the right click. It's the connection between their search and the ad they are seeing. Guys, the connection between their search and the ad they are seeing is something we can improve. The path they take, what was it called? Their search triggers a keyword and an ad is displayed. Well, the first thing is that I am going to bring these closer together. Guys, pay attention. I am going to make them closer. To bring these 2 ends of our spectrum closer, what happens when the user searches? Guys, if the connection between the search and the keyword is inadequate, what checklist items should we mention for this to improve? One is having a clean ad group, and consistency. What else? It's about having appropriate and correct negative keywords, right? And selecting and cleaning up the choice of suitable keywords. Overlap issues, voila. And adjusting your bids if you remember. I mentioned in previous videos, it means if you have a very general keyword or a more niche keyword, and it can exactly capture that niche. The longer term keyword that can capture it and have better precision, that you should place the bid for this higher than the general one. Remember that if you want traffic to come, the one with the higher bid and higher position will get it. Will take it instead of the more general keyword, or the other one will be lower without it. So the connection of being clean, this connection of negatives, they resolve those overlaps. Guys, even the connection between the keyword and the content increased a lot. Between the keyword and its absence, what was it? It was the irrelevance I talked about. If you have this, it can actually help you. So don't forget that checklist I just mentioned. It helps you increase your CTR. Another very important technique side that was taught to you before during ad writing, guys, don't forget to use keyword insertions. Using keyword insertions is after you actually increase the connection between your writing and your keyboard. I'll do a very quick review. You should use keyword insertion, guys. Keyword insertion was used in your ads, remember? When you were creating an ad, I also mentioned using it in your headline. Why? So that it can quickly See that connection? Well, when you were writing your ad, I told you what to do. One of your ads. This time, use keyword insertion. At this time, what was keyword insertion? It was an operator that said, like, when your ad is supposed to be shown, I will place the keyword that triggered it instead of this bracket that I have selected for you now. This means dynamically, based on the user's search, not based on the keyword that was triggered. I actually change this parenthesis. I say, I will change the bracket for you and that keyword. If I can, they will insert it. If it fits the size of the sample, I will replace it for you. If I can't, what I do is display the default that we wrote in the keyword section. So guys, here we can increase the connection between the keyword and its absence. Now suppose you haven't cleaned it. You haven't increased the connection between the header and the keyword. The initial connection I told you about will be cut off. This means it's not just related to working with the keyboard. It goes to, in summary, what they say is that it's a wrong path. So then a more incorrect keyword is triggered. It goes towards the ad. Okay, it gets placed there, but the ad is not related to the essence of the matter. Therefore, you won't get the result you want from it. Keep in mind that the initial connection is very important after this issue. It should be checked and move forward. Therefore, using keyword optimization can make your CTR, click-through rate, relate to this search work and increase, and ultimately, you can also improve your CTR. What are you telling us? Guys, you see, they are still. We can achieve better results together without spending extra money, each spending less. Why should I do this? So first I go and perform those optimizations there. This is to remind about what has been inserted. So this was the discussion about expected CTR, guys. The very last option I have here for improving expected CTR, yes, the last option is to increase the bid, but it is the last option, not the first. Unfortunately, we tend to push the bid up. As the first option saying, let's increase the bid, I can get a better position and achieve a better CTR. I told you, even with a very 10% increase, the costs ad have not yet been incurred, or even one has not been incurred, and the same goes for the others. Well, even though it's preparation, for example, in this decade, this cost with its preparation, so the last option, yes, it increases, but it doesn't give much. If you have limited budgets, you have to raise it, otherwise the preparation will fall apart. On the contrary, why? Because it reduces the probability of showing a high number, even though you say But that budget does not allow it, so I mentioned the budget and suggested removing them. This parameter affects it, and see, the budget is involved. This was the overall strategy related to this topic that I had to tell you about. Finally, what parameters can help your final URL be chosen in such a way that it can enhance your landing page experience? Guys, one of the parameters that affects the landing page experience is the presence of keywords. Have you seen if your keywords are inside that landing page, or better yet, the core keywords? By core keywords, I mean the main essence of those words, the words you have. So, what's the next thing that can help here? Guys, a consistent ad group. A consistent ad group can have an impact on the package. If your landing page experience isn't consistent, and I've cut everything because you don't know to put 50 final URLs in an ad group, for different ads you're targeting in that ad group, you should make it consistent. Either I have one landing page and I place them there, or whatever it is. And if this consistency isn't maintained, it will definitely have less connection with your landing page, and actually, your expected, why am I stumbling over my words? Your landing page experience will decrease. Well, now, the next point, guys, sometimes it happens that you've created an ad group. For example, you've grouped words together, and then you see that you have one or two keywords that don't really justify creating a separate ad group. What can I do? I can keep it in the same ad group and target it there, whether it's for buying or selling, and bring that winning keyword there. Right. A very important point for improving the landing page experience. Guys, up to this point, in your previous video, I mentioned that we learned where we set the landing page or final URL. We set it in our ads that were within the ad group. Now, sometimes keywords come up that when searched trigger events with them. My landing page is a general landing page. For example, if you want to write examples, you want to write them in your notes. Suppose I am selling Canon cameras, Nikon cameras, and Sony cameras. Well, I separate my main brands. For example, I separate Sony cameras, Ochisti-san, Canon cameras, and Nikon cameras, and then they create ad groups for them. For instance, in Canon, suppose, now I'm very familiar with Sony models, but for example, with Canon or Nikon like the D5300, or in Canon, the 7D, 5D, and so on. I hope I said it right. Let's see, don't laugh. Well, I have the 5D, 7D, and so on, for example. I have different Canon models and different Nikon models. Well, guys, in this situation, I might say it's not logical for me to create a separate ad group for each model. Well, and Hatif had said that I don't separate my ad groups based on landing pages. I separate my ad groups based on the theme of the keywords and the ads related to them. I don't care about the final URL right now. Well, and I set the final URL for Canon, and I go to the category page where all the Canons are included. In the ad group, for example, for Sony, I come to its final URL and place my ads on a page that includes all the categories. For instance, all models of, say, Sony Fast are in it, and all models of Nikon are in it as well. But suddenly, I see my final URL. It can be for a series of words that you see. Don't need to be divided into ad groups like the models I mentioned, 75 and D, and so on. I have a more specific landing page for that word, and from that, I see a low landing page experience. Now, in this category page, I have to do something to solve this problem. What do? I come to the keyword level. I edit the final URL column. I edited the column, and you already know how to do it. I click on columns and edit its column. What do I say? I say, look, you who are the penguin thread, I have a dedicated landing page for you. You who are, for example, what I call Siavandi, you are my special product. I have a dedicated Siavandi landing page. I go and copy the final URL and paste it at the same keyword level here. And finally, save. For example, if I paste the Amomar thread here, it's not worth it to create a separate group for the Amomar thread. I say, sir, you are in the thread, but I have a more dedicated final URL compared to the general page of the thread. I go to the final URL of that keyword and add this. Guys, the rest is not needed. It's automatically a dash. It's taking a picture of the edit. It's capturing it. I customize this. When a user performs a search and my Imam thread keyword or my category is triggered, the ad that is displayed, when the user clicks on it, where do they want to go? They want to see the final URL. It says, look, because you have specifically set the product page for your category keyword, instead of taking the final URL from the ad itself and going to a general page like, for example, the main page, I go to the page that you have specifically dedicated to that keyword. I mentioned a point. I said, sir, it's not necessary. It's not logical for all your keywords to have a final URL. It takes it from the ad group anyway. And ultimately, what am I doing here? I'm customizing the landing page for my keyword level. Well, here it can actually improve the landing page experience, but this is just analyzed to raise it above the average. Ultimately, I can test and achieve better results in the call, and finally, I provide a better experience to my user. When they searched for 70, they saw my ad, exactly in that ad group, and the topics I had written led them to click. They go to a page that is solely about 70. Not other things, so that I can improve the landing page experience. So I have placed a special landing page here. Let me mention something. Some websites, for example, look at Facebook. They have a mobile version. For those that have a mobile version, I say use a different final URL. Guys, this is not about being responsive. It's not responsive at all. The mobile version has a different URL for its mobile site. I place it here. You see? Use a different final URL for mobile. And finally, save it. When you do this, you can increase the connections and ultimately achieve a better landing page experience. Bring it. Look, are the threads blue and orange? No, I said here it's not blue and orange. No. Before, naturally they weren't there. No, now the blue and orange price. No embroidery thread. Now I have to take it and check why. I said again blue and orange. No silk embroidery thread. Or this time on the page, it's the same embroidery thread that I was looking to put. But the word silk embroidery thread, I should bring the silk one to that London, at least its title is 6. And the fashion itself. Another very important point. The experience of dealing with it says what? It says you should clearly see the word that you are hitting with honor and have filed in that context. You can't say I'm selling thread and put it on a page where, for example, they are selling something completely different. It's not logical, it gets confused, there's no connection. What happens is that Google questions why this was left there. The sensitivity is not undermined. It's very important that you can make some specific adjustments. Another important point here is that it should not be redirected. You should use the final URL. Another important point is that sometimes it happens that in your category page, for example, a specific brand, let's say, for example, the Lenovo brand. You want to place its AP500 series, I can go into my search. Or I can filter the AP500 series on my website. The URL obtained, if it's not Ajax, I can copy the obtained URL and place it as the final URL right here. That means with the filters you apply on the site and the URL changes. You copy that URL and bring it here. You can achieve the same performance from WAH. Say guys, in the next video, I actually want to teach you diverse ad writing. So you can write headlines and descriptions that have more power. After that, I'll move on to the topic of notes. Up to this point, you've learned what parameters and actions you can take to change the expected or landing page experience and your ad writing and ultimately have a better quality score.